Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Moats, back giving you my thoughts on the Antonio Brown situation. Today, AB has officially requested to be traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was speculation throughout the offseason as to whether or not he wanted to be traded, if he had requested to be traded or not. But today, all of that became clear when he did officially request to be traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He also posted on his social media a goodbye message to Steeler Nation, and he said that it's time to move on and forward with the hashtag new demands. Now, this standoff between him and the Steelers organization has been ongoing since week 17 when he did not play versus the Cincinnati Bengals, largely in part to his actions leading up throughout the week going into that game. Steelers president Art Rooney II stated multiple times throughout this offseason that he would find it very hard to see AB in training camp this year. But he did say that, he was open to it if the two of them sat down and had some type of communication. Now, to my knowledge, up to this point, that communication has not happened directly or indirectly. There's been some times where AB has posted things through social media or Mr. Rooney has said things through different interviews, but the two of them have not directly communicated with each other. Now, when you think about AB and his elite skills, he's 30 years old. He'll be 31 when the season starts. You typically wouldn't even consider trading a player of his caliber, ever, under no stretch of the imagination. But in this particular situation, I feel that you have to consider that if you are the Steelers, and here's why. The way AB has handled this situation throughout this offseason, and the Steelers as well, I feel like both parties have some type of responsibility in this. I feel that neither of them have handled it the best way. I also think about the current status and state of the Steelers organization and just how they've been viewed throughout this season from the media, through social media and things like that. When I think about all of those factors, I do think it is best that both parties have a fresh start. Now, if you're the Steelers and you are going to decide to trade AB, the thing you have to ask yourself is, what are you looking for in return, and where are you considering sending him? Now, if I'm the Steelers, by no stretch of the imagination am I cutting him, because you have to receive some type of compensation for him just because of his talent, just because of what you'll be losing out on. This is an all-pro receiver, 5-6 years, over 1,000 yards receiving, 100-plus catches. He led the league in touchdowns this past season. So you are losing a lot if you just let him walk out the door. Now, if you are going to trade him, some things that you have to consider and that you have to not waver on is, number one, he cannot go to any team in the AFC North. That's your division. You don't want to see him twice a year. Secondly, he cannot go to the New England Patriots. They're coming off of a Super Bowl. If you're the Steelers, that's one of your big rivals. You just cannot let him go to that team. Thirdly, I wouldn't want him to go anywhere in the AFC just because I don't want to have to worry about seeing him in any round of the playoffs except the Super Bowl. That's just my personal opinion on it. Now, the beauty of the situation is this. The Steelers have until March to make a decision. They do not have to act right now. From a trade standpoint, they can't act right now. They have to wait until March when the new league year starts. Now, with that being said, they still do have time to reconcile. They have time to have that conversation, AB and Mr. Rooney. They have that time to soften both of their stances and ultimately find a way to make the relationship better going forward. Right now, just my knowledge of the situation, everything I've seen, how it's played out, I don't think that will happen, but there's still hope. I will say this, though. AB has made his feelings towards the organization very clear, so it will be interesting to see how the Steelers respond going forward. This is unprecedented when you think about a player of his caliber making these type of demands and the way that he's essentially shut off communication with the organization. But like I said, because of what he brings to the table from a productivity standpoint, it's a lot that goes into the decision-making process. Me personally, I feel that anytime a player requests to be traded or released, it's best to grant that player that wish, just simply because if you keep him and that player truly does not want to be there, you're opening up the potential for the situation to be drastically worse going forward. And you'll see that could essentially rub off on some of the younger players or players who could be going through similar situations. So I find it anytime a player wants to be released, you just don't want to keep him under something. You don't want to keep him where he doesn't want to be, just period. Now, with all that being said, they still have time. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out,